Hello, my name is Roger Muller. Welcome to this presentation on the use of SAS macros and SAS formats stored within libraries on your computer. This screen is your home screen. From it, you can pick one of 5 major areas by clicking on the blue cyan buttons on the left-hand side of the screen, or you can navigate from slide to slide by using the controls at the bottom, the typical navigation controls. There is a video on each slide, and you can randomly access within that video. The presentation does not move automatically from slide to slide. Once you want to move on to the next one or move back home, do so as appropriately. On the first slide, we have some reasons why you might want to share things. You know, it's just simply a much more efficient way to work. You can share at a corporate level, departmental level. You can share with yourself on different projects, whatever the case may be. Very important you know how to structure this and how to address things and pull them back and figure out what you did. Remember, without use of libraries, this can become a real mess, and with the use of libraries, it can become an even more confusing mess. On my screen now, I've opened a program, the code for which is included in the proceedings for the meetings. There's a real simple data set, and we're going to print it without the use of any special formats. We're going to submit this selection. Up comes the printout. Let's go back to the paper, to the code rather. And now let's start working with formats, and we're going to put these into 3 places. We're going to put them into a formats _ personal directory. Likewise, farther below, we've got a departmental and a corporate. In each case, I'm going to put these in there in 2 different fashions. I'm going to put these in there into a library with a single level name. Now, this can be very confusing to SAS users because they think of SAS datasets name. These are not SAS dataset names. They are catalog names. I repeat, catalog names. We've got a 1-level name here and then a more typical, and I think better, 2-level name. Within that, those 2 different formats, we put in a format for a value called speed. I'm going to have speed all over the place. Departmental format for library, again, a 2-level name. And I'm changing things just a little bit here. I didn't stick a speed in here. I stuck a speed DD and a speed RS. And then in the corporate format library, I have, again, the 1-level name and the 2-level name. I have 2 different formats here, a speed and a speed C. Remember, speed was used previously. How are we going to control what is going on? Well, first of all, let's go ahead and submit this code. We submitted the selection, and if we were to go through the log, we'd see how it was all written out. Now, this is one of the key parts of this presentation on formats, the use of the options format search. If we had any little local ones defined here in the code that weren't written off, they'd be in our work area. But more importantly, look at here, we've got the personal formats, the personal formats.rate _ speed, that 2-level name, the department, and the corporate. Notice how we're going from the specific for me over to the corporate, where I may not even have write access in a real-world application. And what SAS is going to do is look for the first occurrence in all this stuff of that particular format. So let's submit that selection. Now we've got our format search established. Now let's do a proc print. And this time, let's use the speed. I don't know if we've got a Z left. Let's go with a speed C format. I remember seeing one of those. And I'll change this title. And let's go ahead and do a proc print with the speed C format. Submit selection. Here's that title. And notice now that instead of it saying 100, 150, and 200, it now has those formatted values of slow, medium, and fast. Back to the code in the log. Now, we're going to use the speed dot format. Remember, that's in 2 different places. Which one's it going to hit? Our search order tells us that. And there's the speed dot format. And again, it reads the same as that previous one, which is fine. Okay, now we're going to look to see if we can find where these formats came from that were actually called. We're going to use a macro downloaded from support.sas.com called findfmt. And then the next step will be to run that macro, %find_it, with the names of the formats. Speed C and plain old speed were what we used. And if you'll look at the log up above, first we'll roll up a little bit. Format speed C is user defined, in other words, didn't come from SAS, and it exists in the corporate format library rate_speed member name. Now we know where that came from. What if we had changed something in that and it didn't work? Well, maybe it came from someplace else or whatever. Format speed is user defined and exists in the personal format library formats member names. This was one of those that had only a one-level name, so a little bit confusing. Okay, now we're going to turn our attention to macros. Very similar to what we've just been through with formats. We're going to store them either on a corporate, a departmental, or a personal situation. I'm going to show you that directory structure here. I have just gone to C:macros and copied these over here so they show up simply. We've got macro code corporate, departmental, and personal as folders. Remember, these could be off in different places. We've got a macro in there that's going to be called %PRT speed. Let's look at this. We're going to open it with WordPad. And it's very, very simple. %macro print speed, proc print data equal ND speeds, and then I stuck the title in here and said where it was coming from just so we had a reference point. That same file with a very slight change in the title exists here and in the personal area. Let's go ahead and go back to our SAS file. Now notice that we're specifying the order of the SAS automatic macros. In sasautos, we've got these mapped to first look at a corporate level, then at a departmental level, and then at a personal level. So wherever it hits, it's going to use that one if they're all named the same. And you saw that file was named the same each place. Okay, I've highlighted this. Let's right mouse and submit that sasautos directory as to how this is going to search. Notice this is very specific as to how it's mapped out. Now, how are we going to find out what was used? Look at this options, mautolocdisplay. Whenever a macro is called, it's going to go right back to the library or the path where it came from. This option really ought to be turned on all the time when you're using macros. Let's submit it. Okay, let's do the %print speed. Going to pick one of them. And it says here, data set speed, I was printed by the global macro. That's where it found it. Let's go back and look at the code. Let's look at the log. And look at this wonderful statement. This macro, print speed, was compiled from the autocall file to corporate print speed.sas. And if you had gone in and made a change to sprint speed.sas in your local personal directory because its address last, it never would have shown up. So this is very important. This completes a very quick overview of library facilities to assist you with macros and formats and understanding where it came from. I've been in predicaments where I've inherited code from others where the macros are buried 9 levels deep. Searching for them is horrendous. And even then, figuring out, is that indeed the one that was used? Terrible. Same way with formats. You can really have a mess on your hands and a terrible amount of frustration. My name is Roger Muller. I hope this information will be very useful to you in your future endeavors. Thank you.